What's up, guys? Ryan Rooker with Scrubs Unite here. Figured I'd go ahead and give you a nice little video while I play some Final Fantasy 15 here. But I wanted to kind of go along with a few things. One, we've actually, myself and TJ, the main, two recorders and posters for Scrubs Unite, we've actually kind of been talking and we've been thinking about maybe making this a multi-purpose channel. Now, that's not going to say we're not going to be making Yu-Gi-Oh content. We're still going to be making quite a bit of Yu-Gi-Oh content because, well, I'm autistic and Yu-Gi-Oh is my life. So. But anyway, on with the point. We'll still be making Yu-Gi-Oh content, but we've also been thinking of doing like maybe a few other things similar, like other video game reviews or other card game reviews if we play them. And, just kind of going along with maybe just seeing what everybody thinks of that. Here in the next few weeks or so, if we have time or if we can manage to get things rolling for it, I was wanting to kind of release a pilot video for that. But in the meantime, I want to go ahead and get right into this discussion. So the discussion I was wanting to have today was actually about the ban list. Now, we know that Konami said that the ban list would be no sooner than August, which we all know how that goes, especially given, previous lists. They tend to wait until after major events are done, i.e. in this case, Worlds, Mega 10 releases, Extreme Force releases, which kind of are an example for the Mega 10s. So we know that this is going to be a few weeks off, and we also know that this might impact the meta in some way beyond what we were expecting it to. In all honesty, I feel like there may be an incoming meta shift, just going off of maybe the concept of Goki. Now, I know people are saying, well, it's not a tier 0 format, Goki can be outed, there are ways to get around it. The thing is, and just in all fairness, Goki can be outed, but the outs that you have to run for that are unsearchable hard draws that take up deck space and make it difficult for you to actually draw into them or draw into too many of them and brick your opening hand. So you're forced into a conundrum there, and that's really something that's just an inconsistent curse that's given to us by Konami at this point in time. So I figure the main hit will be Goki. Now, a lot of people are wondering, well, how do you hit Goki? I've heard people say, hit his old. They won't hit his old because Noble Knight support just got released. All 5 of the Noble Knight fan base is diving on it head first, cracking their skulls open over one copy of King Kustinin. So I feel like that's not going to be the route that they take. And if they do end up taking that route, yeah, Goki run 2 is old A, but they really only need 1 if their play goes uninterrupted. And you can't really stop the cost of pitching Phoenix Blade, which over the long haul makes the whole Nightmare thing go to begin with. The search off of his old is literally just a nice bonus. So let's kind of look at other alternatives here. You could just say, well, give them the axe, knock all the Gokis to 1. You're going to kill an entire archetype just because of its recursion? That'd be like saying, well, knock all Satellar Knights to 1 back when they won Worlds. That didn't happen. Really, I feel like the only real answer to it is Nightmares. Now, you don't have to hit all the Nightmares. I don't feel like hitting all of them is actually a requirement. I feel like just hitting maybe 1 would be good, and that 1 is Goblin. I feel like Goblin kind of creates this stronger block on the board over Cerberus and Phoenix. Cerberus and Phoenix are good utility cards that can be used by almost any deck, and there would be no real sense in hitting them that incredibly hard. Now, as far as hitting Goblin, on the other hand, the only decks that really run it are the decks that want to extra link. You don't see a lot of decks running Goblin unless they plan to have a massive play on their hands that will either end on an extra link or some massive stall board that allows them to make ridiculous plays. But nobody's running stall decks right now, and final countdown decks, I'm just not even going to go there, because if you go down in table 501, you still won't see final countdown somewhere. So I feel like hitting Goblin would be a good key for it. Some people say hit MX Saber Invoker. MX Saber Invoker would be a sad casualty to the deck and to other decks involved, because a lot of people who run the Predaplant engine also run the Invoker. But that's not going to say they're not going to hit the Invoker, because hitting Invoker would also be another way to make the deck more inconsistent and stop their deck summoning, which is one of the big things that caused the problem. Another thing that you could do is you could outright hit Phoenix Blade. Now, hitting Phoenix Blade on its own will not stop Tier 1 Goki. What it will do, though, is it will trade off the infinite recursion of Phoenix Blade and allow for you to take Phoenix Blade in itself out of the equation, so the Nightmare monsters are a 1-for-1 trade-off. Instead of getting free pluses off of Phoenix Blade by banishing the 2 and adding it back to your hand, for those of you who aren't familiar with how that combo works, which if you've played this game for all of the month, you know how this combo works. But going kind of beyond that, the next hit we're going to talk about is Trickstar. Now, I don't feel like Trickstar is going to get hit by very much, because I feel like Trickstar doesn't have the real immediate threat potential if Tier 1 Goki dies. Now, Sky Striker Trickstar does, but I feel like hitting Sky Striker Trickstar would be more the better variant to hit by hitting the Sky Striker core itself, because regular Trickstar is good, but not good enough to just immediately hold a dominant spot in the meta. So what we're going to look at in terms of hitting the Trickstar core, or in essence the remainder with the Sky Strikers, we're going to look at hitting Sky Striker Engage. Now, there's a reason I'm going to say Engage over hitting Hornet Drones. Yes, you can hard draw into Hornet Drones, and it kind of eliminates the need for Engage, but the whole point of running the Sky Striker engine is you're running 3 Engage, 3 Hornet Drones. Now, if you was to take away that consistency card, which essentially gives you 6 copies of Hornet Drones, similar to Terraforming for field spells, you take away the consistency of that Sky Striker engine. And if you take away the consistency of that engine down to just 3 copies of Hornet Drones, not only have they lost that consistency, but they've also lost the +1 draw effect off of that Engage, because you're not as likely to have it in hand. So I feel like hitting that Engage would be something. They can just go Hayate, pitch, go into Kagari, fetch it from the grave, and then activate it. But you're kind of having to put excess work in, and you're having to spend extra deck resources to get to your 1 copy of Engage if they limit it. Now, hitting Hornet Drones, they'll have 4 copies of it still, which is pretty freaking consistent. They'll have 4 copies with 1 Engage, but I feel like having that Engage, which net you potential 2 cards, can become a bigger threat as a whole than just the 1 card bonus or the 1 token generation off of Hornet Drones. So that's why I say go ahead and hit Sky Striker core, because I really don't feel like the Trickstar core needs to be hit too much. Now, that's not saying that they don't deserve to be hit. I feel like their time has come to where it's time to quit dodging the ban list. You know, eventually you dance around on that light stage enough, somebody's going to hit you with a gun at the county fair. You know, it's kind of like that water squirting game. It's, what is it, like that weird water gun game where things pop up and you shoot them. You know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like that. Eventually you're going to dodge and dodge and dodge and dodge enough, but eventually somebody sitting down there at that podium is going to memorize the pattern, and they're just going to peg you. And really, I feel like the one thing that needs to be pegged the most is Trickstar Candina. Now, everybody says hit the reincarnation, because reincarnation droll is just an unfair thing in the game. And to an extent, they are right, because really having your whole hand ripped from you and saying, "There goes my soul," is really just, well, let's be fair, it's a dick move, to say the least. Especially when you realize that the rulings are kind of strange on it, and depending on what region you play in, the rulings are different. I was playing on yugioh Pro just the other day, and somebody goes reincarnation chain droll after nothing else had been activated that turn, and it still managed to resolve. So I feel like that creates kind of an unfairness in the rulings because of your region, which here in the US we don't have to deal with that as much because it's simple. You can't activate reincarnation, you can't activate droll until after a search effect or draw effect has been activated. Now, I say that reincarnation might need to be hit. If people complain about it enough, it probably will. But I feel like Candina is a bigger problem, because effectively you're running a 9-card engine with 2 to 3 Lycoris and 3 reincarnation. That's literally just your core for Trickstar. It's 3 terraforming, 3 Candina, 3 light stage, and it's about time that something get done about that core. It's mostly consistency that I look at, because usually consistency is the first thing that Konami likes to hit. They don't like to immediately just outright chop the head off of a deck. They try to aim to make it less consistent, to try to push the players away from playing it. Now, in the instance of a massive meta shift, they may just give Goki the axe, but I don't feel like that's going to happen, particularly when your biggest hit is going to go towards something else like the Nightmare engine itself. Now, on with the next deck in the format, we're going into the pure Sky Striker matchup, and we've already kind of covered hitting Engage, but hitting Engage by itself in pure Sky Striker wouldn't be enough to kind of dull down the deck. Token generation is fine in my opinion, because the deck only runs about 6 monsters total before you count in the Hornet drones. So your main thing that you're having to look at now is what spells can we hit, and the easiest one that comes to mind for me is Toon Table of Contents. Now, the reason I say Toon Table of Contents is because the Toon Cyber Dragon thing is fine and fair. I feel like it's a good out to the extra link, but being able to out the extra link for Sky Striker and have a free opening to get your double effects off for your Sky Striker spells is just absolutely freaking nuts. So by knocking it to 1 or 2, I don't care which right now, because knocking it to 1 would kind of make it unplayable in a sense, but bringing it to 2 would allow you to still go Toon Table, Toon Cyber Dragon, and then you still be 1 spell away from getting your Sky Striker spell's secondary effects. So I feel like maybe to 2 would be fair, but we've also seen Konami just go, nope, down to 1 before, when it really didn't matter. So that will kind of just be up for debate, but I feel like Toon Table of Contents will be kind of one of the hits that Sky Strikers get, or maybe with the mass reprintings we've had, like, 4 reprintings now of Foolish Burial Goods, they may end up nerfing it, because they've milked their money out of it. They've given us so many reprints of it now, and so many people are abusing it with the Sky Striker blends, that really, even if you took away Engage, you still have the Foolish Burial Goods, which is still going to be an overly consistent godsend for the deck. So potentially Toon Table, potentially Foolish Burial Goods, maybe both, but I'm like 5% on the maybe both. I don't really foresee that being an impending hit. So next into it, we have really not much else. Altergeist is fair, because if Altergeist loses the die roll, really there's nothing they can do. and they can't really break the boards they need to break. So I just don't feel like it's a necessity to hit those, because I don't feel like it's going to cause enough of an issue in the meta, because it's slowing the game down. Playing against Altergeist is like playing against that one guy that was running barrier statues back in 2014, 2015. It's a good deck. It's a pain in the ass to fight. It's a good deck that outs a lot of the meta, and its diversity in archetype based on the meta is easily manipulated because there's 6 barrier statues, and you really only main deck 2 to 3 of them at 3 apiece. But it slows the game down, which is something that the game honestly needs, in my opinion, because the whole Sonic X theory of Yu-Gi-Oh! Has kind of gotten out of hand. And you see what getting out of hand with like Extra Linking and Nightmare Turbo and Tier 0 Spirals back when Double Helix came out. You see what this gotta go fast mentality gets you, and it gets to the point to where it chops the heads off of decks prematurely because they give them too much speed to manipulate. And that's just kind of my theory behind why Altergeist doesn't really need to be hit. Now, talking about cards that come off the list, I'll be making a separate video for that, and it'll be coming in the coming days, and I really kind of hope that you guys enjoy this one. If you have any other predictions, go ahead and put them down in the comments section. We actually do look at the comments section, and we appreciate your feedback. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks, YouTube.